Good day, everyone. So, welcome to our session for this day about and external analysis of the business environment, which is very important. But before that, I just like to reiterate certain points to everybody about about technically why are we making this topic as serious as this one. And I hope, just like how I see it, alright, the way how I want you to understand it, I hope that you have also the same enthusiasm, the same kind of energy to absorb or to understand the topics that we are going to discuss. And if there are things as well that you'd like to talk about or you'd like to clarify, you are free to ask questions or some points of clarifications. Now, ladies and gentlemen, so the last time, since we're done with the environmental scanning, when we deal with environmental scanning, we are technically, all right, doing an assessment when it comes to internal and external, both macro and micro setting of the business environment. Now that we're done with the assessment, we will proceed now with the formulation. The main point here is that you cannot do a substantial strategic formulation without doing a very critical or comprehensive assessment, because what will be the basis of the strategies that you will lay in the table if there will be no specific data or substantial information na nanggaling sa assessment. So it's just like when we speak about doing business, that's why we do have accounting. It's because it's the record of all the financial transactions. It's one way of looking at the possible strategies that you will do, because you have historical data, you have documents that will support the strategy that you want to implement, or the basis is the result of a thorough assessment. All right. Now, allow me to present now my presentation. So, as mentioned, our topic today is about strategy formulation. It is now the time for you to think for possible techniques that will be able to utilize to achieve the mission and eventually the vision of the company. But allow me to share to everybody this slide. All right. So this is technically what we will do. All right, for the whole semester. And it is in conjunction or in connection to the business plan that that you're doing. The first one is that you should have the business concept or the business idea. What is the subject of the business plan or the feasibility study? After that is, after conceptualizing, all right, specific business concept, the next step is to start with regards to the strategic plan. The very first process that you need to do to start the strategic planning is the creation and the evaluation of the strategic statement. Strategic statement deals with the vision, the mission, the goals, and the objectives of the chosen or the preferred business entity. Now, on one of the activities that you will do, you will about, all right, to create the vision, mission, goals, and objectives of the chosen business that you have in your business plan. And we will critique it, we will evaluate it so that all the strategies that you will about to present to me, all right, are working in harmony with the stated vision and mission, goals, and objectives that you want to have. All right. The second one is that after creating uh, uh, a powerful strategic statement. All right. The next step is to do or to conduct an assessment of the business environment, which we discussed the last time. This is through the SWOT analysis, the PESTEL analysis, and the Porter's five forces. All right. So this is also another activity that I assume you already done, since I already gave this to you as your activity the last time, that considering the business that you choose, all right, you will conduct an assessment using the SWOT and the pestle analysis. And right after assessing the business using the SWOT and the pestle analysis, the next step is that you will assess or evaluate the business using the Porter's five forces. Now, once you're done with the assessment using the three tool, it is now the time to make a summary of the assessment. The main point here when it comes to the summary is to make sure that you will capitalize the strength or you will utilize the strength that you found in the business or technically the strength that you currently have. The second one is you make sure that you mitigate your weakness, all right? Or make sure that you will do something in terms of the improvement, in terms of the development when it comes the to the uh, to the weaknesses that were the right term is that were that were ass- uh, that were assessed or technically I cannot find the right word, but the weaknesses that you technically find, all right, in the business that you have. The second is to exploit opportunities or make use of the possible external opportunities that you have. And third is how will you able to avoid the possible threats that can affect your business. All right. Next is you will create a portfolio analysis that can, all right, affect the creation of the business model. And when we speak about your business model, this deals with looking at the revenue and cash management, the cash flow, looking at the customer management, looking at the cost management, the other stakeholders management, the product and services management, and the risk management. All this combined, this will talk about, all right, how the business operates, and that is the business model. All right. So once you're done with all the things that mentioned earlier, it will now proceed on the idea of the strategic formulation. You will create now specific tactics, all right, specific alternative plan of actions that will help you to achieve the stated vision, mission, goals, and objectives. All right. Now, using the portfolio analysis, you will now start to create the business model, all right, from the approved strategies that you have. This will talk about deciding now everything that has something to do with the product. This may also talk about the approved strategies that has something to do with the marketing. This will talk about everything that has something to do when it comes to the pricing, to the distribution, to the plan of actions that has something to do with logistics, supply chain, value chain. All right, that can actually um, finalize the business model that you have after the creation of the or after the formulation of the strategy. The next is the business strategy implementation. How will you able now to apply the plan of actions that were approved? All right. And lastly, once it's approved already and put in action, the next step is evaluating the strategy. All right. Is it working? Is there something wrong? What are the things that should be revised, and so on and so forth? On the process of doing, all right, or formulating strategies up to evaluation, there should be here a very clear, all right, policies or principles that should be adhered or followed that should maintain or sustain competitive advantage. It's because your main intention is to make sure that whatever is distinct, all right, that's why in your business, you really need to make sure that there is something that is distinct about your business. If you're into baking, all right, your business has something to do with pastries, you cannot say that it is a kind of business that is uh, that is that is health friendly. It's because it is no longer a competitive advantage, because to now it is a must that everything that we eat has something to do with taking care of our health. So therefore, it's not a distinct characteristic of the business entity that you choose to have. So you really need to make sure that whatever competitive advantage your business has, you need to make sure that it is sustainable, and your competitors will find it difficult to copy that competitive advantage that you have. Because if they can just simply copy the competitive advantage that you have, or that particular characteristic that is distinct to you, that is not sustainable. All right? And according again to Michael Porter, ladies and gentlemen, all the strategies that you formulate, all the strategies that you will implement, and how will you able to evaluate it, it should be strategic fit. It should work together in harmony and in conjunction. The main objective again is you go back to the strategic statement. Are are you sure that with all the approved strategies, that with all the strategies that are implemented, are you sure that all these things are working in harmony with the strategic statement? Because if not, you need to check what what is wrong when it comes to the business. Is it the strategic statement, or is it the strategies that were approved, or is it the strategies that were implemented? All right, it's because somehow sometimes the strategies that we are implementing in the business is working in harmony with our personal goals, rather than with the goal of the business that is in line with the strategic statement. Minsan kasi, yung mga bagay na pinagdidesisyonan mo, nagiging masyado kang subjective. Kasi yun yung pangarap mo as a person eh. Yun yung aspirations mo. So ang mangyayari, naaapektuhan nung aspirations mo o ng pangarap mo yung mga bagay na may kinalaman sa negosyo, kung paano ka mag-isip, paano ka magplano, paano ka magdesisyon sa negosyo, which is not. And you know, one of the main reason kung bakit tayo nagkakaroon ng problema sa negosyo is that kapag nasasama na ang personal na aspeto ng buhay ng may-ari o ng mga may-ari at kung paano papatakbuhin ang negosyo. Example, when it comes to their finances, dapat meron kang sariling pera, alright, na hindi sumasama sa pera ng negosyo if you want to maintain transparency, if you want to make sure that you can evaluate it properly. It's because how will you able to make sure that there would be transparency if you're using the money of the business to sustain your expenses when in fact, it's your personal expenses. Dapat, kung ikaw ay may-ari ng negosyo at kumikita ang negosyo, huwag mong kunin lahat. Huwag mong kunin lahat yung profit mo. It's because there is a need for cash flow. Hindi naman lahat ng kinikita mo, alright, lahat yun ay intended para sa'yo. A portion of the profit, yes, it's for you because that's your money. However, a big portion of the profit should be back in the operation of the business and should be utilized again. All right? So ladies and gentlemen, I just like to highlight that this will be our flow. All right? And we will be using the business, your chosen business, so that it will not be difficult for everybody to have a specific picture of business that you will be using in the creation of the process. Okay. Now, on this particular paradigm, it explains here the first part of the pyramid is checking the capability of the business. These are internal. You talk about the assets that you have, the materials that you have, the process that you have, the people that you have. All right. And from the available things that you have, technically the strengths that you have, you will use that to be able to execute different activities that will create value. All right, and that talks about the creation of the value chain. We come to realize that when we speak with value chain, there are primary activities and secondary activities. However, these activities is in charge when it comes to the execution of the value. All right. Example, primary activities. These are the activities that are directly working with the creation of the value in the products or services. Secondary activities, these are the activities that may not be directly working involved with the creation of value in the product or services, but these activities are relevant because they are helping, all right, they are supporting, they are kumbaga naka-back up to maintain that there would be value in the products or services that will be produced. A very good example is HR. All right, in our example, the last time, HR is not directly involved with the creation of product. But without HR, the people who are in charge in working at the products will not be able to do it properly because they will be needing HR for support. All right. So again, with the assessment of the strength that you have, the capabilities that you have, this will leads to the creation of the value, the creation of the value chain. Now, in the idea of doing or executing the value, or producing or offering a product or services with a value, you will start to identify possible problems that you can encounter in the future. All right? Or you can identify now possible activities that should be improved or that is necessary to be developed. All right? And that will require now different strategies. Okay? Business strategy and objective. It's because through identifying the weakest point of the value chain, you need to identify the possible strategy or tactics that you need to do so that that particular weakness will not affect the operation of the business. Okay, now after the execution, through the process of execution, you will be able to identify loopholes in the operation. That's the time that you can or that you will incorporate certain plan of actions or tactics or strategy. Now, once strategies are properly implemented, it can drastically affect the performance or the result of the company. So you see here, it all boils down to a certain point that there should be process of that there should be process and everything is interrelated with one another. You start with strategic planning, strategy formulation, strategy implementation, and lastly, you have the strategy evaluation. Now, when we speak about strategy formulation, it refers to the process of choosing the most appropriate course of action for the realization of organizational goals and objectives and thereby achieving the organizational vision. You need to understand, ladies and gentlemen, that you create certain strategy not only because this strategy will solve certain problem, but also a particular strategy is something that can boost or that can improve or that can develop certain process or certain activity in the business. Now, it is very clear to everybody that when we speak about strategy, all right, in the process of strategic formulation, we are not only talking about one strategy here. That is why contingency is very important. It's simply because in the process of formulation, you need to create, all right, as many possible strategies that is applicable in the problem or in the premise that you'd like to solve. But you need to make sure that each strategy can it stand on its own. May pagkakataon kasi, ang dami-dami-dami yung nilagay na strategy. Pero ang problema, yung strategy 1 at strategy 2, pwede pala silang pagsamahin. So instead of splitting it to 2, edi pagsamahin mo na lang sila. Alright? So you need to make sure that each strategy that you will present, alright, can stand on its own strategy that will really solve and direct and confront the problem on its own, and that is smart by nature. It is specific, it is measurable, it is attainable, it is realistic, and it is time-bound. Now, it includes different process. Through these steps that follow a rigid chronological order, there are certain instances that the third one can be the second one, the fifth one can be the third one, and so on and so forth. However, they are very rational and can be easily followed in this order. Alright, strategic management involves formulation and implementation of the major goals and initiatives taken by a company top management on behalf of owners based on consideration of resources and an assessment of the internal and external environment in which the organization competes. This is the main point that I'm trying to reiterate earlier, that you cannot come up with a substantial strategies in the process of strategy formulation without doing any assessment internally and externally, and even thinking the capabilities of the business. Okay? It's because, going back again, para kang nanguhula sa possible strategies na gagawin mo kung hindi mo alam kung saan mo iaangkla yung mga plan of actions na gagawin mo. Okay? For instance, you did not assess your employees. How will you able to create certain strategy that has something to do with HR if you don't have any information or any assessment whether your employees are doing good, whether your employees are doing bad? What is the turnover rate or the number of people that is leaving the company? What is the retention, all right, the number of people how that normally stays, how long they usually stay in a company, and so on and so forth. So therefore, you need to have concrete information that can support and be the basis of the strategies that you will about to formulate. Next one. This is technically the steps. All right. So first is that you need to make sure that you know the organization's objective or the vision, the mission, the goals of the organization. Next is you evaluate or you assess the environment, the business environment. Third is you set quantitative targets. All right. The fourth is the performance analysis. And last is the choice of the strategy. When it comes to evaluating, setting quantitative targets, performance analysis, all this has something to do with assessment. You assess, you evaluate before before choosing specific strategy. It's because it's like this one. Evaluating um, evaluating the business environment. After evaluating, you set quantitative targets, you create now specific strategy. And then, with the specific strategies that you create, all right, that this specific strategy should address the specific quantitative target that you have. You want to achieve 1 million. Okay? So therefore, all the strategies that you will create has something to do with realizing the quantitative targets that you set. Now, each strategies that you create should be evaluated to know where is the equilibrium strategy, and where is the strategy that you think will give the maximum benefit with the lowest possible detrimental effect to the business. All right. After the evaluation with the strategies, that's the time that you will choose the best strategy that will be implemented. And after the implementation, it will proceed with the evaluation or checking up the performance of the strategy that was implemented. Okay. Next one. So on this particular image, ladies and gentlemen, it just simply shows that analysis of the external, which is uh, environment and industry structure, and the analysis of the core competencies of the organization, everything that has something to do with your people, the internal, all right, it will leads to the creation of the strategy or plan of action. All right. So they are interrelated in the sense that kung baga lahat ng actions or plan of actions or alternative plan of actions, we're using the term alternative plan of actions. It's because it's an option. All right. Under the strategic formulation process, you will be using the term alternative plan or action. All right. It's because strategy 1 is an option, strategy 2 is an option, strategy 3 is an option, strategy 4 is an option. You can only consider that it is a plan of action after doing an evaluation with every strategist that you read. Okay? Now, the very first step is the analysis. And after the analysis, it will lead to the planning. Planning is a fundamental function of management. Because when you plan, again, it is a default activity that whatever you do, you should do planning in the first place so that you can think the pros and cons of every action that you do. After the analysis and planning, this picture will explain the relationship of all that in the creation of the strategies. So, analysis and planning will combine into one that results into critical thinking. After critical thinking, that will leads to setting up different tactics that has something to do with primarily HR policy, strategies in the HR, strategies with the market, strategies with the budget, strategies with capital, with production, and all that. And after setting different tactics, this particular strategic portfolio talks about the different possible strategies that you have. All right. It is now the time wherein you will evaluate it and eventually choose the best strategy that you have out of the many strategies that you have in the strategic portfolio. All right. Now, this explains that whatever strategy you choose, it should work in harmony with the different areas in business. It should work in things that have something to do with economic factors. It should work in things that have something to do with things externally. It should work in things that have something to do with things internally and even societal factors. Everything, if you will about to choose the best strategy, it should not contradict or conflict with other things. That's why it is very important that when it comes to assessing the strategy that you will about to implement, you thoroughly evaluate the efficiency, all right, the time value, all right, the money that will intake and other variables before coming up to a decision that strategy A is the strategy that will solve the problem. You need to thoroughly evaluate the strategy. All right. In doing so, when we speak about the strategy in the strategic portfolio, there are technically two types of strategy that is rising. The first one is what you call the deliberate strategy. Technically, these are the strategies that are the realization of explicit intention, in which there are two people that is involved in the strategic formulation. The first one are those that create and those that formulate the strategy. So in this particular example, sometimes those who create and formulate the strategy are those that are in the top management position. They are in charge with doing the critical thinking process. They may not be the top management, but the senior management or those with position, because they will be in charge when it comes to the analysis and the planning that will entail the process of critical thinking. All right. Now, the next step or the next people that is in charge are those people that will about to execute and implement all right, the strategy that was approved. All right, now the main action here is the control of those who created the strategy to those who will execute, to make sure that the strategy that was approved will be correctly implemented by those who will implement it. All right, example, the top management conceptualize or formulate a particular strategy, and then those working on the ground, the supervisors or the entry level, these people are in charge when it comes to execution. Control is very important. It's because it is the responsibility of the people that is above or holding the higher position to make sure that whatever they think, all right, when it comes to the strategy, kung paano nila inisip, kung paano nila pinormulate yun, it should be the same when it comes to its implementation. The problem here is this one. Sometimes the strategy itself is so good, but the problem is when it is the time of implementation, nagkakaroon ng problema. Yung objective ng strategy na napakaganda, kapag realization na, hindi yun ang nangyayari. That's why it is very important that on the process, all right, of implementing the strategy, there should be feedback, and that will be the evaluation of the performance. What will you evaluate? You will try to assess whether the strategy that was implemented really address the problem that you have. Talaga bang yung strategy ay nakatulong for the realization of the vision, mission, or goal? Or it just prolong the agony that you're experiencing? Or maaaring mas nakasama pa siya? So for you to be able to understand the deliberate strategy, you have, it is an intended strategy. What do we mean by intended strategy? You have vision, mission, goals, and objective. So technically, since all these things are something that is clear to our organization, you already have specific strategies that will address or that will help you to achieve all the vision, the mission, the goals that you have. All right? And that particular intended plan, other term for deliberate strategy are plan strategy. All these things that you will about to do, all this plan of actions that you will about to do to be able to achieve the strategic management are called the deliberate strategy or the plan strategy. All right? So intended strategy, deliberate strategy, when it is implemented, it's what you call now the realized strategy or the chosen strategy. Okay? So it is deliberate, it is intentional, it is planned. Hindi na lang siya yung tipong biglang lumutang yung ganitong strategy out of nowhere. May pinanggalingan yung strategy and it is anchored to the vision, the mission, the goal, and the objectives that you have. But in a real sense, ladies and gentlemen, not all of the strategies that businesses normally adhere has something to do with the intention of achieving the vision, the mission, the goal, and objectives. It is not planned in layman's term. Hindi naman lahat ng strategy na nangyayari is talagang intentional or talagang plinano. May mga pagkakataon na may mga strategies na out of nowhere, biglang lumilitaw. Alright? And that is what you call the emergent. Alright? So you just start thinking and then out of nowhere you come up with a certain brilliant idea, then you start to do it, and then you realize it. And then according to Mitzberg, again, there are certain strategies that actually solve, all right, certain problems that eventually you can use it as a pattern when you encounter the same situation or the same problem in the future. All right. Now, emergent strategy, according to Mitzberg, a pattern of action that develops over time in an organization in the absence of specific mission and goal or despite a mission and goal. It simply means that sometimes malinaw naman sa kumpanya, sa organization, ang vision, mission, goal, and objectives mo. Pero may mga pagkakataon kasi that there are certain objectives or there are certain strategy that may not directly be working with the stated vision, mission, goals, and objectives that you have. But along the way, in the future, alright, kapag pinatupad mo yung isang strategy na yun, eventually, it will lead to the realization of the strategic management, of the strategic statement that you have. Strategy emerges over time as intentions collide with the accommodate a changing reality. Alright? So it's the difference. When we speak about the deliberate and the emergent strategy, deliberate strategy, these are the intended strategy influenced by specific corporate objectives. All right? There's a SWOT analysis, there's a PESTEL framework, there's a Porter's 5 courses, and there's a described business plan. So, all the strategies that you created are backed up with formal strategic planning. On the other hand, when we speak about emergent strategies, these are the strategies that actually happens. All right? Strategy responds to event as they arise. So definitely, when there are things that happens that may affect the business, whether particularly changes in external environment, example in ABS-CBN, biglang nagkaroon ng problema. Okay? Biglang nagkaroon ng problema in a sense na nawalan sila ng prangkisa. So therefore, they should create strategies that is in line with the changes of the external environment at the moment. Alright? Hindi naman kailangan pa nilang balikan. Alright? Because primarily, their main vision is to be number one, is to be the best, to be the best network, and so on and so forth. But there's a changes. But there's a drastic change. Alright? When it comes to the landscape kung saan sila nabibilang, nawalan sila ng prangkisa. So therefore, emergent strategies will come along this particular problem or will come along with this particular situation. Often involves strategic and tactical changes, not restricted by formal planning tools and method. It's because its main intention is to address the current problem or the current gap that you have in the organization. Alright? I'd just like you to understand that with the strategies that businesses usually adopt, whether it is planned or whether it is emergent, there should be a process of evaluation. It's because if you choose or implement specific strategy, whether it is planned or emergent, without thorough evaluation with the strategy, you will be wasting your time, your resources. When I speak resources, it can be the people, it can be the money, the capital that you have, it can be the machinery that you have, all of that. It will be put in waste. It's simply because hindi naman pala yun yung strategy that can solve the problem. But then you are being too aggressive, you didn't do any evaluation at all with the strategies that you have in the strategic portfolio, bara ka na lang ng bara. Alright, sige ka na lang ng sige. Now, formulating strategy is not an exact science. It's simply because it's not a systematic body of knowledge that there's specific rules, that there is specific and standard procedures and all that. Alright, when it comes to formulation, definitely you formulate certain strategy not because you are thinking this will solve the problem. This will help me to realize the strategic statement. But sometimes, more than creating a problem that will help you realize the strategic statement, you create strategies to solve the current problems or the changes that you have. Because strategies will help you to adapt with the current situation that you normally have in business. Managers should acknowledge that plans change, fail, and emerge over time. So this one. So you have intended strategy that is the result of the formal strategic planning. Then you create deliberate actions. And then that particular deliberate strategy, once it's implemented, once you will about to implement it, it is now called a realized strategy. However, deliberate actions, not all the time, will be as how we want it to be. May pagkakataon na yung iniisip mo na masusolusyonan nito yung problema, hindi niya nasolusyonan. Doon ngayon pumapasok yung mga emergent initiatives or emergent strategies to make sure that if there would be problems when it comes to the deliberate strategy, another strategy will came in that will eventually solve the problem that was created. Okay? I hope I'm making myself clear. I just like you to understand that when we speak about strategy, it is very clear that it is a plan of action, that it is a tactic. However, you need to understand the nature of the strategy that you will about to present or that you will about to adopt or that you will about to implement in the organization. It's simply because anumang strategy ang mapili mo, you'll be using money, resources to be able to materialize it. And the main intention or objective of any business is to make sure that there would be an increase when it comes to revenue as you continue to decrease the capital or the cost. Ngayon, kung nagkamali ka ng desisyon, pagdating sa pagpili ng strategy, ang mangyayari dyan, bababa ang revenue mo at ang mangyayari, patuloy na tataas yung capital cost mo. Okay? Now, there are different levels of strategy. Okay? So the very first one is the functional strategy. Ito yung pinakamababa. These are the operational methods to implement the tactics. The second one is the business strategy. These are the tactics to beat the competition. This is the plot. Alright? These are set of strategies that is used to outsmart the strategies or the business model of a competitor. And the third one is the corporate strategy. This is business we should be in. This is the picture of how we should be as an organization or as a business. Again, when we speak about strategy, this is a set of analytical techniques for understanding and influencing your company's position in the marketplace. These are set of plan of action. Now, let's make it specific. When we deal with functional level, these are the marketing strategy that we do. These are the financial strategy. These are the research and development strategy. These are the operation strategy. Or the strategy that has something to do with the operation. What's the difference when it comes to operation management and production management? Production management has something to do with the product that are manufactured. And when they are manufactured, production management, they are manufactured simply because these products are tangible. That's why production management. On the other hand, when we speak about operation management, these are the products that are intangible. They cannot be manufactured, but they can be operated. All right? The difference again, production management, those products that are tangible. Operation management, those products that are intangible in nature. All right? Next, business level strategy, the competitive strategy. Those strategies that can outsmart the strategy of your competitor. This has something to do with the differentiation of the product that you offer. This has something to do with the pricing strategy that you have. Is it the cost leadership? Is it the scheming? And so on. Next is the directional strategy. Corporate strategy has the highest responsibility in making sure that the business is working in line with the strategic statement. This talks about the growth of the organization, the stability of the organization, the retrenchment, the retention, the turnover rate. Are we still in good shape? All right, and so on and so forth. Now, what I want you to understand, ladies and gentlemen, I'll go back again to this one. Okay? So with this one, we will about now to um, create diverse planned or deliberate strategies that you have out of the strategic statement that you have. So the very first thing is that we will go back to the strategic statement that you have. And since you're currently working with the analysis of the SWOT and the pestle analysis, the next process will be the Porter's five forces. After that, you will summarize the assessment that you the assessment and the evaluation, both internal and external. After the assessment, we will proceed now with the strategic formulation. Okay? And after the strategic formulation, we will do evaluation when it comes to the specific strategy in the strategic portfolio. All right, I hope I'm making myself clear when it comes to the idea or concept of the strategic formulation. All right, so that's all for today with this session. Be updated uh, to any instructions that I will give to the president, or try to make sure that you will always check your Google Classroom because I will upload another activity about the topic that we discussed today. All right, that's all for today. Have a safe week, everyone. And if you have any question, please do message me in our group chat so that I know if there are things that we need to clarify about. Thank you for attending my class. That's all for today. You can now leave the meeting.